Right, Kenny, man. Lots of stuff going on in the world, but hey, if you want to know where it's all happening first, you got to go to Silicon Valley. And if you're going to go to Silicon Valley, Kenny, you got to talk to our next guest. How about introducing him to the Control Trends audience?
Love to, Eric. The eyes and ears out of Silicon Valley is a gentleman named Josh Bradshaw. His website is worktechwork.com. And I'll tell you what, or www.worktechwork. I'm getting a little confused with his. I go to Josh's site on Facebook. Josh is one of the most interesting guys we know because he's on top of every trend. He recently just told us that Elon Musk came away with some new releases. And Josh, welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. And one last thing about Josh, real quick. If you're not wearing a bow tie, you're not cool. So that's the next big fashion trend. And on the last time we had Josh on, Kenny, he gave me and you both bow ties. And I tell you what, man, I'm feeling kind of bad. I'm not wearing mine today. But hey, Josh, thanks again for the bow tie. And welcome back to Control Talk Now, the Smart Buildings videocast and podcast.
Thanks, gents. Always a pleasure. It was about a month ago that we last caught up, and we kind of put the note in that we're going to try and have an update from Silicon Valley every month. And today's a good day to do that.
Well, sure is. What happened, Josh, recently? Last night?
Well, last night was actually quite interesting. Tesla CEO Elon Musk announced two new products. One is the second version of their Powerwall, which is the energy storage that goes in the home. And the other thing, the big new thing, are these rooftop tiles that are solar cells. They have some that look like slate, like Tuscan tile, like glass, and they're just they look better than regular roof tiles. It just looks amazing. Wow. So they did their event, I think, in like a cul-de-sac where they had actually taken the houses, took pictures of them before, taken the roofs off, put on these new solar cells, and they were just beautiful. And so elegant design, the craftsmanship and brand that Elon's known to deliver in his products and his vehicles. And I think at one point he even quipped that these tiles should last longer than the house.
Josh, I was at a conference about 3 weeks ago, and a gentleman from California was speaking, and he said that there's a mandate in California that by 2020, all the homes will be NetZero Homes, and then by 2030, it'll be the building. So looking at Elon Musk, I mean, I can definitely see this happening with the homes, and he's got the Powerwall so you can store the energy. My question for you is, do you ever see a day where you're going to have a building that's powered by solar and batteries?
Oh yes, no, that's exactly what's going to happen, and having a solar powered roof with energy storage in it is the way to go, because you go from night to day, and at night you use the power storage, and day you use and charge up that power storage from the sun. So absolutely. And the other thing is construction methods are changing. Yesterday, I was talking to Charles Bobbitt, who's the CEO of a company called Bone Structure, a Canadian company. They are building homes here, ultra efficient and intelligent. And, you build with energy efficiency in mind, and then you add solar power on the roof and solar storage in the garage and run electric vehicles. You're running LED or low energy lighting, and suddenly you can really do this. You can be off the grid, you can be on the grid, but using a little bit of energy. But ultimately, we are getting there.
Well, this is incredible, Josh. I mean, this is going to definitely impact. So we watched the rise and fall of Steve Jobs, but the Apple still continues. But now we're seeing Elon Musk really take off in a direction that's going to make an impact globally. And I don't think it's going to take very long. If this stuff proves to be as potent as it seems to be, Southern California is going to be the hot test bed probably. Where else in America would they take advantage of this Tesla? Both the roofs, the concepts you just described there, the vehicles. What are the prime points in America that are just armed and ready for this kind of a deployment of technology? Besides California.
Everywhere the sun shines. I mean, really, where the sun
Pittsburgh's
shines.
out, Kenny.
Yeah, well, I would be one of the last ones, unfortunately.
The thing is that the sun is going to be powering a lot of life. Now, certain states and municipalities have some resistance to this because of the influence of the power companies and their lobbying initiatives and so forth. But those barriers are being broken down. We know that we cannot continue to emit as much carbon as we have, even though we in the United States have cleaned up substantially over the last few decades. We still know that we have to have a greener planet, and we have to do our part. And it's house by house that we're going to be able to do that.
So, the incentivizing that our federal government does, to get, like we did with the smart grid, for instance, it released a large amount of money, and then sooner or later the private sectors get up on its feet and make it work. Do you see a similar deployment like that, or do you think it's going to be they could give you tax breaks? Or, in other words, to me, I just like to kind of dot the I's, cross the T's, how you go from this tremendous technology, and you said house by house, which is a very good point. But do you think that we'll see the incentivization, for people on their tax returns, for instance, like they do with Tesla cars? Would it follow that kind of a model?
Certainly, I think that governments are going to incentivize their citizens in ways. I'm not aware of any specific programs, but
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if I saw one today. Even certainly, I think that government does play a role in betterment of the society, and it can do things to encourage its citizenry to adopt behaviors that are for the greater good.
Well said.
So quite possibly there'll be something there.
All
Well
right,
said.
Josh. So listen, I want to change the subject a little bit here because my understanding is the hottest fashion accessory. And obviously our viewers can see that, you understand fashion in California and Silicon Valley is not the Apple Watch. It's not your Tesla. It's not your clothes. It's not your trophy wife. It's your thermostat. True or false? And what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so you framed that quite well, but smart thermostats are a must-have, and there are several reasons why. I'll let you decide if the answer is true or false to that question. But certainly, having a smart thermostat is way better than having a dumb thermostat. Dumb thermostat's one of those ones where you have to go push the knob, or you're twisting something, and it may even still have mercury in it if you've got an old enough thermostat. That's a dumb thermostat. Smart thermostats are amazing. I actually have had a smart thermostat for a year, since last Thanksgiving. I bought my smart thermostat, on a Black Friday deal. So I would recommend to all y'all that are looking at maybe getting a smart thermostat, keep your eye out in a couple of weeks for those Black Friday deals, because you might just find something there that's really enticing. And then you can put in a thermostat.
Well, yeah, and also, Josh, could you true or false that there's a new TV show coming out of Los Angeles called "Is Your Presidential Candidate Smarter Than Your Smart Thermostat?"
Yeah, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be a tough call, wouldn't it?
The real question you have to look at, and because the thing is, this smart home stuff is actually quite confusing. I've been at 2 different smart home startups and studied the industry a lot. The question is, which smart thermostat should I buy? Right? Everybody needs to know that. Which one should I buy? Interestingly enough, the answer may depend on this question: which smartphone do you use?
Good point.
Because if you use an iPhone, you may want to select a smart thermostat that works with what's called Apple's HomeKit, which is their ecosystem where the products talk to one another and talk to the Apple ecosystem. So they have a home control app, and they have thermostats and lights and all these other things. And so if you're going to be in your home and you want to know what temperature it is, or you want to change the temperature, you can ask Siri to do it if you are using an iPhone and you have one of these thermostats that works with HomeKit. Now, I have one of them, and I have the Ecobee 3 thermostat, and I have also with it 3 remote sensors, so that it's possible to put a sensor in other places in the house, and then you can tell the smart thermostat set the temperature based on the temperature in this room if it's occupied, on the average of all the sensors, or even just like the old-fashioned thermostat, just based on the temperature on the wall near the thermostat. And I really like that, and it's HomeKit compatible, so I can ask Siri, what's the temperature in the kids' room, and get an answer. I can. And it's actually really great. Now there are other smart thermostats by other brands. I went and looked this morning because I knew you guys wanted to talk about thermostats. I went and looked at the other thermostats that are also HomeKit compatible. Ecobee has two different ones: their regular thermostat with remote sensors, and a new version which is a light thermostat. Doesn't have the remote sensors. Elgato has one. It's Elgato Eve is the brand. It's a thermostat called Thermo. Honeywell has several of their Lyric thermostats that are HomeKit compatible. So, and that's actually a thermostat that a lot of people like. It has a white look to it, and people like that aesthetic on their wall. iDevices has a Wi-Fi programmable thermostat. I have a couple of iDevices switch in my house, and I love them because they were really easy to set up. Can't say that that's the same for the thermostat because I haven't been through that process with it, but it's a good one. And then if you're in Europe, the thermostat for you, if you are an iPhone user and you're in Europe, the one to get is the NetAtmo thermostat, the NTH thermostat. That thermostat is designed for European market. Their heating and cooling needs are different than ours here in the U.S. They have less forced air than we do for heating and cooling, and different other methods for heating and cooling, and so that thermostat's available in that market.
Well, Josh, real quick, I just want to hop in real quick and say something for our control trends community, because a trend that Kenny and I have spotted, and first of all, let me say, Josh, among other things, I think is available for consulting. So if any of our manufacturers out there sort of want to know what the pulse of Silicon Valley is or whatever, I think you can get hold of Josh and he would give you some insights. Because Josh, one of the trends that we have sort of spotted, because we come from the building automation control side, which we've been doing this stuff since heating and cooling were invented. And there's a certain way that we go about doing it. And one of the trends that Kenny sort of spotted, and I agree with, is that Silicon Valley, the Intels and the people from Silicon Valley are redefining the context of what a smart home and what a smart building should be. And if you're sort of trying to figure out what products to make without getting input or really factoring that in, it's a little bit like you're navigating a ship in a storm without a compass and a light. Fair statement or not?
Absolutely. There are a lot of missteps that you could make, even in building your own home. And now, Eric, you've hit on the fact that I consult for businesses, and I do that, and I'd be happy any of your Control Trends listeners that have businesses and they want to leverage some insights. By all means, I can help you strategize around what's happening with innovation. But I also have become the de facto smart home gadgetry expert for my friends, and so I've decided that I will also offer a consultation on if you want to decide which smart thermostat, which smart lights, what is it that I should do, because all of this consumer do-it-yourself stuff's out there on the market. It's confusing. I'll also help people to decide, well, what should I put in? Which smart lock should I use? These are things that first world problems, I know, but you don't want to make the wrong purchase and then down the road wish that you had another feature that just because you didn't know, you made the wrong decision on.
Well said, Josh. Well said. And it's funny because when you say that, I was at the Apple store about a week ago, and they had a whole wall of connected products that you could put in your home and stuff like that. And it is confusing. They got 7 different locks and all kinds of stuff like that. So. People can find you through your Facebook, among other things, right? Josh Bradshaw on Facebook.
Yes. So on Facebook, I do a lot. I don't have your typical Facebook profile. It's targeted towards sharing innovation and ideas. I interview entrepreneurs and post those interviews on Facebook. Occasionally, you'll get a fun post here or there because I do also have a personality. But mostly what you'll find in my Facebook feed is really interesting thoughts on innovation and disruption and different things. I went through and looked at, from last month when I was on the show to this month, the companies that I've interviewed. And actually, I made a list. It's actually a really good list. I made a post on Monday Motorbikes. I've interviewed them in the past, and I just wrote a blog post about them. This is an electric motorcycle. Awesome. It's a pedal bike that looks like a motorcycle, so you don't have to have a motorcycle license. You can park it anywhere because it's a bicycle, not a motorbike. Great for in the city, and it doesn't look like an e-bike or a Vespa. It has a little bit of
What's it
manliness to it.
called?
Monday Motorbikes. Yeah,
Cool.
and they're just shipping now. They have shipped the first 11 motorbikes, electric motorbikes. Great company. Another company, NEMA, which is a company that detects gluten in food. Amazing for people with food allergies. Visual Visor, a company that has a VR headset so that you can look at VR. There's a whole lot going on in the Valley on VR and AR. VR is virtual reality. AR is augmented reality. I interviewed a company that they're combining VR with wearables called Enflux so that you can see motion in VR from your physical body. Nanda is a Bluetooth phone charger. Grush, a smart toothbrush. Glance Clock, which is a product that launched by a CEO that I worked for at another startup that is a smart clock, goes on the wall. I think we may have mentioned that in the last one that came around right around the same time. And
Yeah, we
then
did.
Furhat Robotics is a telepresence robots that's done with imagery, so amazing things happening there. And Coronat Computing. Now that's an interesting one that actually relates us back to the thermostat, because what they're doing is a French company. They are deploying distributed servers into people's homes, and so when a server runs, one of the outputs of a server is computing, but another output is heat. So one of the big challenges in the data centers is keeping that data center cool. Well, Carnot's come up with a way to distribute servers into people's homes and use that heat generated by computing as heat to heat the home.
Wow.
Right? So instead of having a radiator, you got a server there, and that server is doing work and it's warming up your space.
Interesting. Very interesting. And I'll tell you what, you didn't stop there. You also did an incredible presentation on the future of transportation to CABA, which is the Continental Automated Building Association. Tell us a little bit about that.
Were you listening in on that, or you just saw me on Facebook saying that I did that?
I saw your Facebook post. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I took a picture. Yeah. Future of transport. There, I shared with CABA some of the things that I've looked at. So Monday Motorbikes we already mentioned, but I also talked about EcoReco, a company that has a scooter, electric scooter, probably the most efficient transport per mile besides walking. Right, or biking, maybe. Definitely the most efficient, propelled by battery power. I talked about Solar Impulse there, this solar-powered airplane. That's an electric vehicle, and certainly has ramifications for the future of transport, and several other things. And so this was with CABA, has a group that focuses on the smart home, and they bring in folks to talk about things. And I co-presented with another gentleman talking about, what's the future of vehicles? Are they electric? Are they autonomous? Are they both? Are they connected? Or are they all three? All three? And the answer is they will be all three, and you can have them separate. I also mentioned caravanning. The first self-driving delivery was made by Budweiser. It was a truck full of beer. They went, I think, about 120 miles, and the semi-truck drove itself the entire way, and
Wow.
delivered the load. So we are doing things, and there's been projects with platooning. This is where the semi-truck in the front is followed by semi-trucks behind it, and the one in the front is doing the driving, and the ones behind are just simply following in kind of this auto mode. They know what happens in the front one, because when there's braking or whatever, they know immediately and can also slow down. They can get right up close to one another. Many semi-truck drivers say too close for comfort, and they will benefit from lower energy consumption in the transport, because they have this aerodynamic effect as the trucks are going down the road, and also they require less work on the part of the driver, and eventually there won't be any driver in that semi-truck.
Josh, I tell you what, man, fascinating stuff, fascinating stuff. One final question for you, buddy. And you got a feel for our industry from Realcomm, Ibicon, and your insights, by the way, are just invaluable. But here's kind of an odd question for you. What don't the people in our industry know that they don't know yet? Meaning, what do they don't know that they need to know?
Good question.
I would say there are probably thousands of answers to that question.
What's the most important one that they don't know?
The most important thing that someone could do to not be asleep at the wheel in real estate or real estate technology is to have your finger on the pulse of what's going on in innovation and disruption. Because whereas before, all of these technologies that came to market that enabled the world that we have today, full of smartphones and connected devices, all of those things came along, and in the world of real estate, we just kind of incrementally used them, and we didn't have a major disruption caused by technology in our industry. Other industries got disrupted. Okay, but now when we have so much data that can come out of a building, and we can have data-driven decision making, we can have integrated systems, we can have all of these things. If you are asleep at the wheel and not putting these technologies to work for you, well, you're gonna get passed by. Plain and simple.
Well, and I think one way, Josh, to stay informed is to check out Work Tech Work. Keep in touch with Josh Bradshaw. Follow him on Facebook. Your Facebook thing, by the way, is very innovative. It's not your typical Facebook. The videos you do are fantastic. Unlike Kenny and myself, you have mastered the art of the bow tie and mastered the art of brevity. So most of your videos are 2 minutes or 3 minutes less or something like that. So
yeah, I aim for between 2 and 4 minutes. I'll occasionally go to 5.
Awesome, buddy. Well, listen, Josh, thank you so much for taking some time to speak with us today. As always, we appreciate you. And we'll talk to you in about a month or so, okay?
Sure thing, gents.
All right, Josh. Thanks so much, buddy.